Hello, and welcome back to the Asheville Vedic Astrology YouTube channel. My name is Fernando Raul Castro Alvarez, and I'm part of the 4-year Asheville Vedic Astrology apprenticeship course. And today, Ryan has decided, to take a vacation. He has decided to mellow out, and he has invited me here to talk to you guys about how the planets function for a Sagittarius Lagna according to their respective lordships. And in this video, we will be discussing the role of Mars, of Kuja Deva or Mangala Deva, for a Dhanus Rashi Ascendant or Sagittarius Ascendant. So before we begin, this might be a little simple for some of you, but let's explain what does it mean to have Sagittarius Ascendant. What it means is that whenever you were born, however you came to this wonderful world, whenever you were born, in the east, in the horizon, Sagittarius Rashi or Danu zodiacal sign was rising in the east. And we have to remember that the east and the ascendant corresponds to the first cusp, hence the first house. The midheaven, the point directly above our heads, corresponds to the 10th cusp or the 10th house, and the descendant, the 7th cusp, the west, corresponds to the 7th house. And this is how we do horoscopic astrology or Hora in Sanskrit, by having an ascendant. And the ascendant is very important in natal astrology or Hora in Sanskrit because it anchors the Lagna, it anchors the chart, and it will delineate the different other houses that will express the different areas of life through which we will experience the karma that we have in our life, that we will have to deal with it throughout our experience in this incarnation in this world. And in this video, we will be talking about Mars, and Mars rules the 5th and the 12th for a Sagittarius Ascendant chart, according to the traditional way of dividing the houses in Jyotisha, which is whole sign house systems. If you use another system of house divisions, probably Mars will not rule these houses, but they will rule others. We must always be aware of these technical things in order to do good astrology. Astrology which has like an educational background to it, and hence we will be better astrologers, okay? So before we start, let's describe Mars. Mars is a masculine planet. He is one of the 3 masculine planets in Jyotisha, the others being obviously the Sun and Jupiter. And being a masculine planet, what it means is that Mars likes to take initiative. He likes to fix things. He likes to work on things. He likes to create things. And he also is able to do things whenever things are need to be done, right? He does not depend on moods. It doesn't matter how he feels. If duty calls, he will act. And at the same time, he likes to feel recognized for whatever he does. If he kills a mammoth, he likes to hear people, congratulating him. So that's what it means to be a male planet in essence. Now, at the same time, Mars is a malefic. Mars is one of the 2 big natural malefics in astrology, the other being Saturn. There is debate whether Saturn or Mars is the worst. Usually people will say Saturn, other people will say Mars, but in essence, I think it's just 2 sides of the same coin. And Mars is bad because he represents the unexpected, malefic, negative things that might happen in life. The idea of Murphy's Law. If something goes wrong, then be sure that Mars has to do with it. We have to remember that Mars alludes to accidents, he alludes to violence, he alludes to war, he alludes to battles, to combats. And we have to remember that in the ancient world, violence, war was a lot more common than it is today in most developed countries where we live, right? Even though there's still violence in our respective countries, in our respective cities, there is still, bloodshed, there is still, combat, there is still a struggle even though we live in a world of law and order. And this is why I think unconsciously we seek out all this violence and blood that we see in media, in action movies, in horror movies, and all that, because that Mars is still associated with that within our life, right? However, we shouldn't see Mars as all that malefic, even though he's pretty malefic, because Mars also has allusions of serendipity, of luck, of, you know, things happening without us expecting them because they happen unexpectedly, even though there might be malefic. But Mars is pretty bad, okay? He's a malefic. He will come in and something will happen unexpectedly, and probably it might bring bad things to us. So that's why he's a malefic. In addition to that, in the planetary cabinet metaphor, Mars is the general of the planets. Mars is in charge in the palace of bringing to fruition whatever the king, the sun, wants. He is the right hand of the sun. He will do whatever the sun wants because he commands over the armies in terms of the defense of the kingdom, in terms of the offense of the kingdom, and at the same time, the capacity of the kingdom to expand itself or retract itself or just move here or move there according to the will that the sun entails. We have to remember that Mars is a Kshatriya planet, which has to do with people who administer things, with the military, with people of action. Okay. At the same time, Mars is a Pitta planet, which is one of the three doshas, which are very important in Ayurveda and Vedic medicine. And Pitta is a combination of fire and water. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't explain this, but Pitta dosha is basically a combination of water and fire. But in essence, it's like a fire. And Pitta dosha alludes to the idea of transformation, of solve et coagula, which is one of the precepts of magic, of taking something, taking it apart, and transforming it into something new. That's the ability of Mars. Through its will, he's able to turn things into other things, and in order to achieve more things through its will. And at the same time, Mars is a tamasic planet. And tamas guna is associated in the Bhagavad Gita with ignorance. However, it's not necessarily that. Tamas is more related to the things that we have to do in order to survive, in order to do the things that have to be done, even though those things might be malefic, might be aggressive, might be, you know, a little bit harmful to others. You know, Mars is tamasic because he takes offense. He does whatever has to be done in order to survive. You have to remember that Mars is it's immediate logic. It's 2 + 2 is 4, and whatever that 4 entails doesn't matter because the point is to get to 4. Mars likes to fix things. Mars likes to get to the point, likes to be straight. And that's why he can be tamasic. He can, in this process, he can hurt other people. He can hurt situations. But in essence, that's what he does in order to survive. Mars is that impulse that tells us to run whenever a burglar is coming at us, or whenever we're in a fire. It's the urge to escape that fire and survive with our dear body. Now, if we were going to describe Mars in keywords, they would be, the idea of intensity, of passion, of immediate logic, sharpness, and overall will. We must remember that Mars is the empire of the will. It is what we do whenever we want it to be done, okay? And as I said, Mars for a Sagittarius Ascendant will rule the 5th and the 12th house, which are respectively Putrasthana and Ribhasthana. Putrasthana alludes to the 5th, and this means the place of children. And obviously, as most of you know, the 5th is associated with children, but it's also associated with creativity and the mind. We must remember that the 5th is of utter importance for the Lagitadya Vashtas, and having positions in the 5th, specifically malefics with benefics, or the nodes with other planets, will entail some psychological predisposition that might bring shame or obstacles to the person with that chart. And at the same time, Mars rules the 12th, which is Ripashtana, which is the house of expenditure. And the 12 has to do with expenditure. It has to do with the things that have to end, with conclusions. It has to do with dissolution. And from a Vedic astrology point of view, it also has to do with bed pleasure. So it will have some relevance in our sexual life. So now we know what Mars is, we know what the 5th is, we know what the 12th is. Now, how will these characteristics mesh together? And people, this is how we do astrology. We take A, we take B, we take C, we take D, and we bring them together through language. It's just like Simon, that game, you remember, like blue, red, green, yellow, and then you have to repeat it, and then you screw up and whatever. It's more or less that analogy, okay? So with these positions for a Sagittarius Lagna, what we can expect is intensity and passion with our children and our bed pleasures. Obviously, Mars has to do with initiative, with will, with passion. So we're going to see our children that way. We're going to see creativity that way. We're going to see our mind that way. We're going to see our will through our creativity and our mind that way. And at the same time, there's going to be a lot of passion with bed pleasures. We must remember these cliche things from modern astrology that Scorpio is very sexual. Here, for a Sagittarius Lagna, is more than ever, because we have the 12 in Scorpio, bed pleasures, and Mars rules it. So we're going to expect a lot of intensity and free will with sexual stuff. At the same time, we will experience sharpness with our creativity and our spending. We're going to be very logical about how we feel that we have to do something creatively. I have to do this and this, then I have to do this. Cool, let's do it, no matter what. At the same time, we're going to be very sharp about our spending. I want that. I want to spend it. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to be logical and straight to the point with those facts. And also, this might express also with our children. We don't want you to do that, so I'm going to say this and that, and I don't care what happens. You have to do it. Point. Remember, Mars is the general. Mars is the chief, the administrator, and it's just like the army. And we're going to be that army person, that officer, that, I don't know, it's a general, but you know, most officers don't get to be generals. Probably, like, let's say a major or a lieutenant colonel that's going to give the orders related to these areas. And at the same time, we're going to be extremely logical and willful with the inevitable and the mind. We're going to be very logical about all these facts that have to do with children, with creativity, even with romance, our mind, with dissolution, conclusions, and expenditure. Now, we briefly mentioned the idea of Scorpio with the 8. We have to remember that the 5th is Aries and the 12th is Scorpio in this arrangement for Dhanus Rashi Lagna. Now, the 5th will be seen through the filter of Aries, of initiation, of birth, of individuality in relation to our creativity and our children. If we have children, we're going to see a lot of ourselves in that person. We're going to feel that our individuality is there. And at the same time, having children with a Sagittarius Lagna might bring the idea of something new starting. Obviously, when we have children, well, you know, things change, right? It's the best and the worst thing that can happen to us. But in a sense, for a Sagittarius Lagna, it has more of an idea of an initiation, of a process within we change. We change as a person more than in other cases. And at the same time, you know, we see things creatively from a very youth perspective. And at the same time, we're going to see this youth energy towards our mind, towards our children, and so on and so forth. Now, the 8th is seen through the filter of Scorpio, which has to do with the management of energy, the awakening, and the focus on the unknown related to dissolutions, related to bed pleasures, to inevitable conclusions. When we have Scorpio in the 12, you know, they're like Scorpio is, it's, of course, Scorpio is complicated beyond anything else, you know. He's hidden, he's a cave, he's full of water, underwater, underground, I mean. He's also a desert, you know. And here with Scorpio, there is a lot of complicated stuff with how we feel about the dissolution, the moksha of the 12, how we feel about expenditure. Even though we might be very straight to the point with expenditure, there are things that are complicated with them. Maybe we spend money and we don't understand why. Maybe we feel bad about it, but then we feel good about it. Or maybe we just, ignore that feeling. There might also be great intensity with our sexual life, even something that we can't really explain what we love. There's a lot of intensity in terms of the endings that come upon our lives, specifically some, not all of them, because it's Scorpio, and with Scorpio, it's not easy to predict, because what we can predict is the unknown. What we can predict is the management of energies and dealing with intense and complicated stuff. Now, we have to remember that planets get exalted in certain positions and get debilitated in certain positions. And with Mars, we see that he gets exalted in the second and debilitated in the 8th for a Sagittarius Lagna. So what does this tell us? This tells us that children and expenditure are going to be an elemental part of how we deal with responsibilities, with finances, and with our family. Even though children might bring some sort of heterogeneity to how we feel about our family and responsibilities, since the 5th Lord gets debilitated in the second. The second lords get debilitated in the 5th, but the 5th gets exalted in the second. We see that children might bring some source of, capacity to expand our responsibilities in a good way, that expand our capacity of our resources and our lineage. That's why we said that the idea of children brings a new initiation. At the same time, if we want to expand our resources with Sagittarius Lagna, we have to be willing to invest. We have to be willing to expend money. And at the same time, we can see sex as some sort of, financial ability to, gain more resources and so on and so forth. Now, getting debilitated in the 8th, what this means is, that children in the hands of others might not be a good idea. That children being influenced by the resources of other people might not be a good idea. That children getting involved in esoteric stuff might not be a good idea. Sudden ups and downs with children might be something also very related here, which also entails the idea of getting initiated through our progeny. And at the same time, doing joint ventures in terms of investments might not be a good idea, because the 12 gets debilitated in the 8th. Spending a lot on, esoteric stuff. I don't know, you go down to New Orleans and you want to do some job with some sort of a voodoo priest or something. It might not be a good idea, because you're probably going to spend a lot of money. At the same time, you have to be aware of how you spend your money in relation to your partner, in relation to your wife or your husband. Those things have to be considered here, because even though you might see it like straight logic, like with sharpness, it might not result as you wish it upon. So there you have it. This is Mars from a perspective of Sagittarius Lagna. In my opinion, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down in the comments. I'm sure Ryan will answer all of them, because he always answers all the comments, specifically the ones that have to do with what is the effect of certain planet in certain house or center planet in certain sign. He loves those questions. So if you can write them down, he will surely answer them. And if he doesn't answer, well, I guess he doesn't like you. So I hope you had a good time, and see you in the next video, where we will be discussing Shukra Deva or Venus for Sagittarius Ascendant. So take care, and as I said in my videos in Spanish, I wish you strength, serenity, and wisdom. Take care.